Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special edition of the Daily Dispatch. Our guest today was catapulted into the national spotlight when she refused to comply with the draconian lockdown directives in Oregon. She's a women's rights advocate and a devoted mom. And as if that wasn't enough, she has written a book called Targeted and is in the process of launching two new companies. I'm so pleased to welcome Lindsey Graham, better known as Patriot Barbie, to the show. Welcome, Lindsey.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much.
Great to have you here. So we're going to start off. This interview comes at a very interesting time. Just earlier this week, some schools and businesses have been starting to bring back mask mandates. I'm sure you have some thoughts on that, and I know my audience would be eager to hear what you're thinking as both a small business owner and as a parent.
Well, let's start with small business owner. In case your followers are not aware, I was the salon owner in Oregon that stood up to lockdowns, and I reopened against mandates in 2020, which is how I became so politically and socially involved in this culture. I will say that after reopening against COVID lockdowns, I never enforced masks in my salon. I never wore a mask. My family didn't wear masks. None of us have ever gotten COVID. And even if we did, it came in the form of a sneeze. I mean, we never tested. We stayed completely safe. So if that isn't real science, and the world told me you are going to kill people, your kids are going to die, you're all going to get COVID. If that's not science, I don't know what is. So critically thinking, complying is stupid, and that's very, very harsh. And I said this on my Instagram, and I got a lot of hate for it. But it's stupid if you think that a lockdown, that a government can try to control a virus, and that is something that has been true since 2020, that you can't control a virus. And this is proof, because they tried to in 2020, but now it's back in 2023. So there's more science for you that lockdowns didn't work. If you believe what I'm saying, which is that they don't work, you absolutely cannot comply with this in any way, shape, or form. You absolutely must fight back. You absolutely must do everything you can to be non-compliant, because so many people failed in 2020. So many. Even me. I failed the first 6 weeks by staying shut down because I didn't know any better. And that was their sign that they could control us, that they could do this again. And lo and behold, they are doing it again. So if you fool me once, shame on you. But if you fool me twice, shame on me. And I will say shame, shame, shame to anyone that complies for any reason, because you sacrifice everything that the rest of us are fighting for, and you weaken we the people, and it should not be tolerated. So as a parent, I control my family. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. My children will never mask up. My children will not attend school if they're forced to wear masks. Every parent needs to do whatever they can to protect their children, because there is nothing more vile than watching a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old scream and cry about their face being covered up and smothered. It's devastating. And every parent I know, every parent you know, will have said at some point in their life, I would take a bullet for my child. I'd die for my children. I would die for them. It's like, but you won't stand up and like unmask them. You won't pull them out of school. You'll take a bullet, which is the most dramatic statement you can make. But if it comes time to speak at the school board or chew out the principal or picket at the school, you won't do that. So don't tell me you take a bullet for your kid and then turn around and smother their oxygen.
Right.
That's
right.
how I feel.
Very well stated. You know, we've got several things at play here. We have the lack of peer-reviewed studies on any of this supposed science. We have a level of cognitive dissonance that is pervasive. People just, it's so far out of their realm of understanding that they have a hard time grasping it. But I got to say, I've been in this fight for a long, long time, and I have not seen the amount of people wake up and the amount of disclosure take place in the last 3 years that I have in the last 3 decades. So I'm with you. We have to stand up. There has to be a certain level of saying, no more, we're done. We're not going to comply. So I agree with you.
I will say that I expect to see a lot more resistance this time, which is encouraging, because in 2020, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, I was not awake whatsoever. I'm honored and proud to say that I was one of the people that you would be slapping in the face in 2020. You're not paying attention. Wake up. This is happening and this is happening. And my defiance of lockdowns had nothing to do with my political or my spiritual beliefs. I was just a hard-headed, successful business owner that went, okay, hold on, Walmart can be open, but I can't do hair. Give me a break. That doesn't make sense. And I'm just a hard-headed, persistent Pisces. So I reopened for my own reasons, but the reaction of the world woke me up to like, hold on a second. One political party thinks this is brave. The other thinks I'm a murderer. How is this a political thing, me needing to work? I'm so proud that that happened to me and that I woke up. And I believe 2020 was like the greatest thing to happen to America. I think a lot of people like myself suddenly just snapped out of it and went, I got to get in this fight because my kids cannot grow up in a culture like this. And that's really what it's about is if you mask up and it's not inconvenient for you, it's just a mask. It's no big deal. Don't come crying to me or Sam or anyone else when your kids have to wear masks 24 hours a day, like in China. So
Right.
this is what we're
Right.
fighting for, is the freedom for our children.
Right. I stand with you on that. You're absolutely right. Can you talk about this from the perspective of being a mom and what it was like to be threatened with losing your children over your choices?
It was as devastating and emotional as you could ever see in Hollywood portrayed. I was very, very brave on the outside with the news and the media. I was well spoken, but internally I was terrified. And you know, the definition of courage is not to not have fear. The definition of courage is to have fear and go forth anyway. And I literally received paperwork from Child Protective Services informing me of my rights if my children were removed from my home. And I pictured my 6-week-old baby being ripped from my arms. I pictured my I think they were 5 and 3 at the time, screaming mommy, like, you know, you see in the movies where your kids are being taken and you're trying to keep them calm, but you're also terrified of what's happening to them. And gosh, looking back, because it was 3 years ago, and being able to disconnect from that emotion because it's almost like it wasn't me. It's almost like a story of someone else. I just can't believe that a government would say, we're going to take your kids from you for doing hair. And that story right there is what pisses me off when people comply. Because I had my entire family threatened. I had my children threatened. And you're just going to put on a mask like nobody, like our military, our veterans, but then us Americans, what we sacrificed and what we stood up for you, and then you're just going to go and comply. My children being ripped from my home was worth fighting for you when you're simply going to bend the knee. That's just such a slap in the face. And that's why I think even if you're not the kind of person that can stand up and boldly do something, when you actively comply, you become the enemy. I mean, you really do. So these people need to realize you're not just complying for yourself, you're complying against everything that we've been fighting for.
Right. At a very fundamental level, I agree with you. I think that it's about control.
Mm-hmm.
What can they get away with? Can they pollute our skies? Can they pollute our water? Can they pollute our air and get away with it? Or are we going to stand up and say, that's enough?
Right.
So, in light of that, what role do you think moms and parents have in the next election and in the direction of our country in terms of where it's headed?
Well, I mean, the first and foremost thing as far as parents, moms and dads, is to vote with your morals, not tax breaks, not even like the debt ceiling, like the values and morals that you want your children to enjoy. Politicians are corrupt. Politicians are bought and paid for. It sucks that we have to elect politicians. But more importantly, can you look at their private life and respect and appreciate what they truly believe in their heart? I would say elect officials that have children, that are going to be concerned with the future of their children. Obviously, I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. I vet all the Republicans that I plan to vote for. I would never vote for a Democrat just on the pro-life issue alone. But we have to look for people who are valuing the future of our children more than global warming or any other stupid scam like that.
Right.
Yeah, we have to be vetting the politicians, unfortunately, or the people that are just running for office that aren't politicians, especially that care about, our children.
I agree with you. And, I tend to stay away from Democrat and Republican and conservative and liberal. What I focus on is a person's actions.
Mm.
Show me what it is that you believe. Don't tell me what you believe. Show me. And I think if people took that approach, we'd have a much better idea of what it is that people represent. So I agree with you.
I love that. And their voting record too. That's one thing that a lot of people don't have time for. But Turning Point Action puts out, it's called the golden ticket. And they say, if you are a conservative with these values, here's who we suggest you vote for. And to me, even as involved in this as I am, I don't have time to vet every single candidate that's coming out there. And that I've voted wrong at some point. And if Turning Point Action says, here's the values that we vet, here's who we suggest you, it's like, why can't you just take that one simple card and at least try to vote according to that? Someone is doing the work for you. Find those resources and use them.
Right. There's a gentleman in Idaho who does the same thing. He vets the people for the people because I get it. We're busy. We have busy lives. We have so many things going on. It makes it a lot simpler. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So, what lessons are you teaching your children about government and tyranny?
Oh,
I thought this would be a good one.
It is really good because my kids know that, like, mommy fought the governor, and they say things like, the government is naughty. And I'm like, the government is naughty. And then, of course, there's all these radical leftists that always like to send me to scripture that says obey the authorities and things like that. And I've talked at length with pastors and said, hey, tell me about how I did go against the Bible here. And he said, well, it used to be that authorities were anointed by God and they were God's chosen ones. And it's not like that now. There's corruption and there's demons and there's a republic that is a disaster in the voting industry. I tell my kids, it all comes down to one statement and one statement alone. I answer to God, not government. If what the government is saying goes against what you believe by God, by the Bible, you don't comply. Even if it means jail time, even if it means harm, even if it means loss, even if it means suffering, we answer to God. So, for example, the government says abortion's okay. Many states are allowing, abortions up to 33 weeks or whatever it is, some 36. That's not okay just because the government says so. It goes against what I believe in. So we don't comply with that. We don't answer to that. And that's in a nutshell, that's what they need to know.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think too, when you talk about scripture, context, syntax, they all play a part in how we interpret that which is going on. And really, our gut and our instincts and critical thinking really can give us a good basis, a good barometer on what and how to act, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the critical thinking comes from, in my opinion and in my spiritual belief, critical thinking comes from your eyes being wide open because you have a relationship with God and the Holy Spirit. And that direct line to God can convict you and convince you and speak truth into your heart. And so a lot of people are trying to think discerningly, but where's your moral compass if you don't have a moral compass, a moral guideline, which is the Bible and Jesus Christ? You don't have anywhere to say, well, who says murder is wrong? I mean, at that point, who says we can't kill each other? Nobody said that ever in history,
Right.
except I guess the laws. But again, we don't answer the laws. So if you want to be really discerning, if you want to know truth, you have to consult the ultimate authority, the God Almighty.
Well, and I think that's part of the problem. We in America used to have the high moral ground, but we've lost that. And we've lost it because people just aren't thinking. They're told what to say, they're told what to do, they're told how to act, and people have lost the ability to think. And so I agree with you 100%.
Well, and this country was founded on faith. So I'm confused how at one point we didn't say, if you want to live in this country, which is based on faith, you have to have faith. And if you don't, bye. Like that's, it's a club. And we founded the club, and here's what you have to be in the club. And everyone did. And as soon as you lost what we believe in as a country, you should not live here. You should choose to leave.
Right. Or, and in addition to that, when you have a wide open southern border and you have people flowing into the country like I've never seen before, never heard of before, what do you think is going to happen? These are people that haven't been vetted. These are people we have no idea who they are, what they're capable of. We have to close that border. And I would think you'd probably agree with that.
I very much agree, especially living in Arizona, where, I mean, they're infiltrating my specific state. And I hate that the border control has become a humanitarian issue. It's like, well, if it is a humanitarian issue, what about the humans that already live here? Like, there's so much sympathy for these people who I'm sure I sympathize with. If you don't love the country that you're in and you need freedom and you want success and you're a capitalist, great. Pursue and seek your dreams. Go for the gold legally.
Legally.
Like, what's the problem with asking to do it legally? It's like saying, I want to open a business. I'm going to do it. I'm going to open a business, but I'm not going to abide by any of the rules. Like, do it legally.
And it's worked pretty well for about 250 years up until recently.
I would say so.
Right.
Yeah. How racist of you, Sam. You must hate Mexicans. You must hate illegals for saying that.
No, and that's the other thing too, Lindsey, where they come across with these ad hominem attacks with me, and I don't have the exposure that you do, but I've been doing this for so long. This has happened to me for decades.
Yeah.
Where they can't argue with me on a fundamental understanding basis. So they have to use an ad hominem attack. They have to use red herrings because fundamentally they don't even understand why they believe what they believe. And that causes people to react in different ways, whether they get angry with you or they shut down, or it's a myriad of responses, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's actually really disheartening because the fight that we have is to try to win them over to our side, which is the side of light and faith and life and freedom and liberty. And we can have these rational conversations because I don't need to call you names. I can simply speak. And when my mouth opens, the truth comes out and facts come out and science and biology come out. And they can't argue any rational facts or science. And so they just call you names and then the conversation is over. And it's like, I want so badly to reach you and meet you, not in the middle, because your middle is still vile. I want to reach you and love you and have conversations, but I won't tolerate you attacking me. And so therefore the conversation is over. And yet we are the ones who are hateful and divisive and non-inclusive. It's like, we're trying so hard.
But we know that's not true. If it wasn't for the mainstream media telling people what to think and what to believe, in my opinion, people like us, we are the majority in America by far.
Yes.
But because of the mainstream media and their bullhorn, which is slowly and now even quickly moving away from, things are changing. I mean, look at the interview yesterday with President Trump and Tucker. It's over 200 million views. The days of the mainstream media are done, and they know it, because it's up to people like us to go out and speak the truth. And not from an emotional standpoint, but from a factual standpoint, listening to people, interacting, and doing it in such a way that's not offensive. But if what we say is offensive, so be it.
And so it's always offensive, because it's if you can believe one thing and I can believe one thing, somehow your thing is perfectly fine, but my thing is offensive. Like, why are we not really, really offended by some of the things that they're doing? But the word offensive is such a victim mentality, which we also don't have. I'm not offended that men try to dress like women and come in the locker room. I'll fight it. It's not offensive to me. It's just, it's not right, period. So I'm going to fight it. But what's really necessary is for people who are afraid to speak up because they're afraid to get canceled. Those people need to speak up. Because let's say you're in a break room at work with 6 people, and one person starts trashing whatever, we'll say Trump. He's such a racist and a homophobe and all these things that, again, are not proven and not true. And you sit there and go, well, I know that that's not true. And I actually have all the science and the facts and the news articles. But what if the other four people in the room agree with that person? Then I'm going to be alienated and canceled and reamed. And so you're thinking that. Well, guess what? What if the other four people in the room are also thinking that? This one guy could have gotten served a dose of truth, but you are all too afraid to say anything. And guess what? If you would have spoken up, not only would you have proven him wrong, you would have had 3 new allies, 4 new allies that you just realized, you know what? There are more of us in this room than him, but they've made us so afraid to speak that we stay silent and we all think that we all despise each other. And the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, social culture, the greatest thing, the amount of friends and family that I lost is astronomical. The amount of people that one day respected and adored me and the next day called me a racist was mind blowing. And yet I'm so glad that God revealed to me, these are your enemies, literally on earth, and these are your allies. And I stick with my allies.
I think that's a wise choice.
Yeah, I would have never found them. I would have never known who was fighting the demon's battle and who was fighting God's battle unless I had had my voice to speak about what I believe in.
Well, and I think not only in your life, but on a much bigger global scale, I think that's what's happening. People are getting ferreted out. They're being exposed for who they are. Truth is coming out, mainly because of social media. Mainstream media doesn't have a stranglehold anymore. The truth is coming out. People are waking up and they're saying, hey, wait a minute. That doesn't sound right to me. And I think that's a wonderful place to be. I think we're living in historic times.
And I think and I hope that people are looking at, there's a lot of Hollywood celebrities right now kind of coming out and saying things that are more conservative. And I think that it's starting to shift. Like, they're talking about cancel culture. I'm going to get canceled for this. It's like, then you know which side is going to come after you and you know which side is going to support you. And yet the fact that you're still willing to say it shows me that there's now a new level of courage that says, if I say this and I get canceled, then good, because I want to know who's got my back and I want to be able to say something that's true, even if it costs me whatever, a job, livelihood, paychecks.
That's called integrity and character, and I salute you. So
everyone that does it.
Yeah. So are there any initiatives or projects that you're currently working on to raising awareness about government overreach and protecting small business?
No organizations, no projects really. I mean, as you said, like my social media is pretty steadily growing. So I just try to use that to reach people with, you know, a message of courage and bravery and strength and resistance and faith. My book is really, it sounds like a plug, but my book is really inspiring. When God called me to write that, it was after I had moved out of Oregon to Arizona and I was going through an identity crisis. And I was like, all right, I was a 6 business owner, a salon owner, making 200 grand a year. You know, now I'm unemployed, lost everything, supposed to be like the Patriot Barbie. I don't even know what that is. What is this, God? Like, what did you do this all for? He called me to write a book. I was like, well, that seems really silly because I fought the government for like 15 days and then they reopened. So I guess I'm writing a book about those 15 days, which seems really small. But when I got into the book, writing it, it was my time with God to recognize, like, he's been preparing me for this time my whole life, just like Esther. And I think we've all been prepared for this our whole life. It's just about finding out where God's calling you to be. And so, if anything, I want people to read it and just go, she was just an average chick with a really crazy life. And God pulled her from the lion's den and called her into something incredible. And I want everyone to experience that. Everyone. I loved my life in Oregon. Loved it. Had a beautiful custom home, 3 kids, making a lot of money, running 6 businesses, being a boss babe. And when I left it all and came to Arizona, I just thought, what could you have for me that's cooler than that? It's this. It's fighting for what's right. Like it's having a purpose. It's having a voice and having truth and having the ability to speak it because I was canceled. It's like, what are you going to do now? What are you going to take from me? I lost it all. It's all gone. Now I can say whatever I want.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
true freedom. It's true freedom. And I want that for everyone. I want everyone to say, you know what? I'm not getting the shot. I'm going to lose my job. I don't know how I'm going to provide for my kids, but I'm going to trust in the Lord that he will provide for me if I stand strong. And I want them to lose their job and get on their knees and God say, oh, so glad you did that, faithful one. Here's what I've got for you. And then experience what walking in real faith looks like and saying, I do believe truly that the God of the universe has something for me. And all it took was for me to say no when I was supposed to say no.
Very well stated. Very well stated. Gosh, Lindsey, this has been fantastic. Thank you. Tell people where they can get your book and tell them about any other businesses you've got going on and how they can find you.
Okay, well, I'm tapping into my entrepreneurial self again, which is a part of me that God knows I love. I'm launching a conservative Christian fashion brand with 2 other influencers. We launched September 12th. It's with Kendall in Kentucky and Pamela Jean Noble. It's called Pretty Little Patriot. And you can sign up for the newsletter on prettylittlepatriot.com. And then my website is patriotbarbie.com. My shop is there. I've got cool merch. Yes.
Great.
Don't tread on my kids.
Oh, great. Great.
Yeah. So my book is there and my merch. That's on patriotbarbie.com. And just I hope that besides trying to sell you crap, I hope that I can inspire and encourage you.
Well, you clearly have today. And I'll put the links at the bottom in the descriptions and all that. Lindsey, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here. We just had a blast.
Me too. Thank you, Sam.